For today's biomechanics breakdown, we're going to look at Fed and his serve. Does a lot of incredible things, as you would expect. You don't get a run of dominance like him without it. But there's a few things I really like and I think are important for a lot of tennis players to understand if they want to both get power but not put too much stress somewhere and create an injury. So let's go ahead and roll video. And immediately he does two things I love. So if you take a look down at his left foot, it's off the ground. So he has shifted all his weight into that back or trail leg, which is perfect because eventually his goal here is to drive himself forward and upward, which is going to be a lot easier if the weight is toward his back leg. The other thing is as soon as he goes into that toss, he really opens up his shoulders. So he has now got his chest facing toward the baseline as opposed to toward his target. And this is exactly what you want to see in a rotation athlete. Just like you see a pitcher in baseball load the trail leg, rotate the chest away, shows the batter is back. This is what happens with Fed and his serve. So he's got this weight shift and rock and opening of these shoulders that I just absolutely love. Perfect. From a biomechanics perspective to where you want to start. He goes into his toss. He's going to establish a contact point on that second foot, give him another thing to push off of to give some vertical force creation. He's now getting a little bit more balanced out, weight in the toes, and he is ready to drive through his legs hard. He still has that coil that he has not unwound for the upper body, but the real key with that coil is it means he doesn't have to excessively extend his lower back. So he can keep his back a little bit extended, neutral to neutral extension, but because his chest is opened up, he's still able to load and create a lot of power. So there's also a great racket position from his trail shoulder here as he gets into that externally rotated position. And we'll advance it. Okay, another thing, a little subtle thing I love that he does is as he goes up to the ball, he's basically yanking his toss arm down. So we just think as a way to develop momentum, once the ball is up there, you can drive at it and that's great, but if you can throw that front shoulder down and open, then you're really going to be able to create a little bit of extra speed there. He's going through, comes, contact. What's cool about, so he's got ball on racket now. We drew a line where his chest is facing. He's purely toward the crowd. I think this is a lot of times what amateur and youth tennis players don't always realize is that your chest is not facing toward your target where you're delivering the ball. That's not how a rotation sport works. It's going to coil away from a target and then it's going to move back toward it depending on the sport, depending on the type of serve you're hitting in tennis, is going to give you the result of how much it's facing toward your opponent as far as when you get the contact. And we'll watch him follow through here. Does a great job, full pronation of that upper arm, which is great to dissipate force. He's obviously going to land and then be ready to return. Again, just can't do enough praise about Fed's positions on the serve. Do want to make one other point. So if you've ever spent any time working out in the weight room, we talk about knee positions, we talk about squats and deadlifts, and what you see in tennis for most players is this position: weight, balls of feet, body weight forward, knees forward. It's a lot of quad tension. So when we look at knee injuries with tennis players, we want to consider their serve position and what kind of pressure they put on the anterior side of their knee. That's a really important thing to factor in when you're trying to work with something like patellar tendonitis, which is going to be fairly common in tennis, between positions like these and running around on a hard court. And again, we'll watch him finish this serve off. And I'm going to flip here because I just like to see another angle here. Watch how he shifts his weight in the lower body. You can see him roll back. He's got that weight on his trail foot. He starts to begin to load his legs, and then as he drives, he's going to start evening that weight out, pushing forward. You can even see the subtle shift of his hip going that way, right? So even before he's actually leaving the ground, he's driving his hips forward toward the ball, bringing the chest around, contact, and dropping and ready to play. So I'll do a few more of these and some other players, but Federer is always a great place to start. His mechanics are great. This can get a little different when you start talking about players who have slightly different foot positions, but from that back position to the shoulder to the drive, those are all going to be important both in performance and health for tennis.